Let's try and look in the camera and do that. And don't miss 1 minute on September 29th when Strategy Room celebrates 1 year on the web. Want to do that again, Maddie? Yep. And don't miss 1 minute on September 29th when Strategy Room celebrates 1 year on the web.
Yay!
All right, here we go. Here's
Will you still be that tan on the 29th?
Probably.
Just asking.
Depends. If it's 29's a Monday, I probably will.
It's also my friend Dan Healy's birthday.
Dan Healy's birthday. That's
no one
interesting.
cares.
That's good. Gina, continuing on. Eric, Yaverbaum?
Yaverbaum.
Yaverbaum,
Love that
President,
stuff.
Ericho Communications. What's Ericho Communications?
We're a PR firm. We own also everything we
Pick
own.
your book.
Well, no, this is just one of my books. I brought it because I usually do 9 o'clock, but they told me that somebody very good-looking hosted at 3 that I might want to do the show with.
Who was filling in for me while I was gone?
They always talk about PR for Dummies. I also wrote PR for Dummies. I've written 6 books.
PR for Dummies. All right, and to your right now.
Warren and I worked together at the same time. When I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, Warren was a very, very good friend, has been a good friend for 20 years.
Don't hold that against
So I dragged him here today. I'm glad he's here.
No, I'm glad
You guys sitting out there in the green room with me before we came in, that's very intimidating, the two of you.
With the two of them?
Yeah.
Me, not so much. I was doing shots of...
No,
Do you know if you change your name to Jägerbomb, you would sell a lot more books?
You
would just Google, be like, why don't we buy this book? It's Jägerbomb.
Well, do Google me, but
Right.
I spent 1 year of my career spelling that last name. It would be a lot easier, Jägerbomb.
You look like a terrorist who went on a diet.
Thank you. Well, that's such a nice compliment. Thank you. I'll make sure that clip gets promoted.
Just trying to put a little shockwave into it.
Pam, yeah.
I was alerted within a minute of the first airline hitting the North Tower and ran over there. I happened to be at Exchange Place in Wall Street and ran the 5-6 blocks to get there and was there when the second plane hit.
Interesting about that is that and in some of my conversations with people like removed, because we're not watching on a screen, we're watching in real life,
Right.
was such a different impact on all of us. And I don't know if you know this, but the number of people that left New York City versus those who came in. More came in because they said, rah, rah, we're not going to change our lifestyle. But it's almost two different sort of clubs. Those of us who watched and those of us who watched on TV. Very, very different, psychological reactions.
Anyone who was downtown, Eric, Warren, myself, and anyone else who's downtown will never forget the eeriness in the hours that followed as the dust and the particles
The days
from the
that followed with the smoldering
kept coming down, and you saw papers filling the
Flying
street
all the
and
way
dust.
to Brooklyn.
Yeah, in my back.
They're trying to rescue people.
Well, you know the story. I know. He told me it's at dinner, and I'm sorry I forget his name. You'll know he was head of the New York FBI during the time of the first Trade Center bombing.
Jim McAllister?
No, Lewis.
Shalero.
With all due
Fox.
respect to the FBI, I forget his name.
Jim-
Jim told the story. Maybe you guys will
Marino.
know that.
Could have been Jimmy
When
Fox.
they apprehended, when they
Jimmy
extradited
Fox.
the first World Trade Center bomber here, that they picked
That was
up at the
Ramsey
airport.
Youssef.
That's Ramsey.
They're
They
in the-
flew
they're
him
in the
back.
hel- yeah,
Ramsey
they're in the
Youssef.
helicopter.
Zach, true story.
And he tells the story.
Lou
He's
Shalero was
facing-
there. They picked him up at Stewart Air
I
Force
mean, to me,
Base.
that was at the time. The story was I'm looking at the
So
prisoner,
they're
the two
still-
early FBI agents.
Still
the,
standing.
yeah.
True story.
He asks, "Can you take the blindfold off?" They say, "Sure." He says, "It's still standing," and the FBI agents do that are sitting with him. And his reply, just like that, was, "Not if we had more money."
All right, let's just do me a favor. Let's tell people exactly what happened in '93, the first bombing. What happened was a group of, I guess, 2 terrorists drove a van filled with explosive into the bottom parking garage under the World Center.
Building 2.
Building 2.
Was it Building 2, he was saying?
First of
Parking
all,
garage
we
number
had
2.
done an enormous surveillance, and where this sort of gets convoluted is because we made a number of mistakes, and those are documented in a number of books. But to be a conspiracy, forget about it.
No, but to talk about what the first one what actually happened.
We were following. By the way, this is not a Saudi thing. This is an Egyptian thing. These guys were Egyptian terrorists. They were part of the Egyptian terrorists. They were kicked out of the Egyptian army. And there was an informant that we had, and he came in, and we had, back in the day when I was...
Oh, okay, you were trading crude oil,
We were trading
not
crude oil, right. But here's the thing. We had the National Guard bring us in. They put us in the building. You want to talk about scary? They put us in the building, locked us down. Locked the doors down. So now you know, you don't know if there's more attacks coming. You remember right after that, there were a bunch of anthrax scares.
Right.
I remember 5 or 6
plane that
times
went down, they thought
running
was them,
down
remember?
12 flights of stairs because someone said there's anthrax on the training floor. You know, 3,000 people hitting the same exits.
Yeah, and you got to take
Scary.
everything that you hear. You got to take seriously. That day, leaving the city, because I drove and I was south, 2 blocks north of Canal. Driving out of the city, there was a bomb scare on every block.
Yep.
So they would send your car south, and I'd say, guys, you want me to go
GWB
north, you don't want me to go
bomb scares.
south.
Yeah.
But they had to take everything seriously.
Well, and one of the things, and I think it's terrific that we're talking about this today, because I think that we need to remember just how horrific it was.
Oh.
And what this did to our country and how this affected us. And I think that one of the concerns that's the biggest that I have is that we're